Hi guys, and welcome to our Qbilon tutorial about push connectors. If you ever wanted to push any data to Qbilon, then this is the right tutorial for you. I've prepared a Qbilon instance for you, which is a clean setup, which has no data sources in it, and I will show you how to push any data into Qbilon. So if, for example, you usually want to connect a third-party system, you go into the data sources. But if for any reason our predefined data source connectors don't work for you because you have another third-party system you want to push data into it, we got you covered with the JSON push connector you can see down here. When you go into the JSON push connector, you can just give it any name. So it might be your third-party system, and what it creates for you is a pre-shared secret token, so to say. You should copy it and save this push connector. What Qbilon does in the background is actually to create an endpoint for this push connector so that you can push any data to this endpoint with this token you just copied. In order to show you this, we can first look at the meta model. There is currently no data in here, so we have just a manual. We have no element types, no relation types, no elements, nothing there. And we now want to push some arbitrary data into it. So what we do is we create, for example, a postman request. Postman, for the guys that don't know, is a wonderful tool to create just any REST requests or GraphQL requests. In this case, we are creating a post request to this endpoint, localhost 8181 RP4 blah, 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 blah. If you wonder where this endpoint comes from or where you can look it up, you can go to our documentation, which is under Qbilon.io documentation. You go to data sources, and there you go to the JSON push connector. Here you can see what we just did. We created a JSON push connector, copied the token. You can also see a sample data you can use to just test it out. And what you also see is the URL you should use to push your JSON data to. You can also see the headers you should set. So for example, you should set the content type to application JSON, and the push token header should be the value you just copied from the data source we created, the JSON push data source. And in the body of the post request, you can send any JSON data that adheres to this format up here. So there is also an explanation of what data types you can use, like text, numbers, Boolean, stuff like that, but we will come to that back later. So back to the postman setup. What I did here is create a post request to this URL we just saw in the documentation. And in the header section, I have created a content type, which is application JSON, and the push token, which I should replace with the newest one, which contains the token we copied from the JSON push connector data source. In the body part, I have just copied a very, very simple graph object. It contains just two nodes. So you see this is the graph object, here are the nodes, and you see two different nodes in it. What each node does have to have is a unique ID. It should have a type. You can use any type you ever imagine. So if you want to call it not server, but hypervisor or virtual machine or whatever, you can just write it down here. Qbilon knows how to deal with that. You have to give it a name attribute. That means the property of this node that should be used as the name that is displayed in Qbilon. So what this means is for this node, Qbilon should use the name property, which is displayed down here. So this name is linked to this key, and therefore Qbilon knows, okay, this property and the value of it, which is server 4 in this context, should be used as name. For the property section, I just mentioned earlier that you can have different types of properties. Each property consists of a key and a name, value, and data type. So the name is the same as the key, the value is whatever you like, and the data type should match whatever you typed here. So if you didn't use a string, but instead a number, then this one should not be text but number. And the possible data types, those you can find in the documentation on the Qbilon website. So now that we've seen what data we are sending, we just execute this request and we see, okay, it was a 204, no content back, but it was a success. And when we go back to Qbilon, we now see that the JSON push connector was once executed. It ran 1 second, and if we go into the details, we see that we received 2 different elements. To display you that even further, you can see in the meta model that there is now a new type server, which has 2 different instances and has a property name, which is of kind text. To display you this in an actual graph view, we can go to server, add them quickly, give this view a speaking name, and open it. And what we now see is the 2 different servers we just pushed to Qbilon as nodes in our graph view. They have the property name, which is in this case server 2, and in this case server 4. And when we now go back to Postman, we see that this is exactly what we have sent to Qbilon. So what we achieved here is we pushed some completely arbitrary data to Qbilon. It doesn't have to be a predefined connector. It might be any third-party system you want to connect to Qbilon. You can write a script, create a push connector, and then just use this endpoint and the data syntax we just presented here to push any data you want from your third-party system to Qbilon, and then analyze it further, connect it to your other data sources, merge it with them, and gain all the benefits Qbilon comes with out of the box. So if you liked this tutorial and want to learn more about Qbilon and how you can put it to use, then hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want to try it out for yourself, don't hesitate to contact our sales and get your free trial license for Qbilon. Up until then, take care and see ya.